claim I'm better than man for man. Can I beat him? We want to believe that, but I can make sure I'm better if I take this, though. I guarantee me to be better. It's tough for us because some of us don't like to touch who we really are. We're really winners or losers. Sometimes we doubt who we are, even though we are that great energy. We doubt it sometimes. So it could be like it's easier to say this. Take this. This would be easier.
Yeah,
it makes me better.
Yeah,
I like that.
I do too.
I think, and I'll turn it to you. I think Mike hit upon a couple things. If the temptation isn't just to get big, I don't think anybody gets on steroids to get big. Like I want muscle. I think what it is if you could get to your dream, right? Like let's say, because I think if you win Mr. Olympia, is it $1 million? I think it's like $1 million even. You can get the house you want. You can get the lifestyle that you want. You can get the cars that you want. And you're only 1 or 2 substances away. Would you consider it? Awesome, welcome back, CVMK show, where it is what it is. I'm your host, Cody Kelly. Look, we have an amazing. I had to get dressed for this. I had to put on a tie, put on the corporate blue with the corporate blue tie and the blue shirt, because we're going to be talking about the legalization of steroids, because it's about time it should be legalized. You might not be a fan, but let's just be honest. Let's have an honest conversation. So I had to bring in one of the best podcast hosts when it comes to the sports genre, none other than William Morgan. William, how you doing today?
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you. Let me be here today.
Man, anytime, man. Look, I'm a huge fan, as I was telling you. I see his content. He'll have like a multiplicity of guests. I'm not as famous. I can't get 8 people to jump on like I used to. Everybody used to want to jump on. Now it's like, I only want to do one-on-one stuff. So,
right.
I reached out. William's like, yeah, man, I'm down. So William, just for those who do not know you, tell us about yourself, where they can listen to the podcast, and then we'll get into it.
I host several shows, but probably my favorite show to host would be the Sports Report podcast over on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. You can find us on those platforms. We shoot the show live every Monday at 10 p.m. I'm also a huge pro wrestling fan, so if you like pro wrestling, you can catch me out. Matter of fact, catch me tonight, as a matter of fact, Sports Report Fight Night. Same place, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, 10 p.m. Eastern. And one more show that I'm proud of, and this is my baby because I kind of started this on my own. The Geek Gauntlet podcast, and what we do there, we talk if you like anime, video games, comic books, things of that genre, the nerds, quote unquote, culture, Star Wars, Star Trek. We talk about all that stuff. We have a huge panel that comes on. At the very least, it's going to be 3 to 4 of us. You can catch that Saturday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, Geek Gauntlet Podcast. You can also find that on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.
Y'all connect with them. First of all, I'm a huge fan of all of it, from the anime. I'm a huge DBZ fan. As I said, Brawley is the legendary Saiyan that never gets his full credit.
The first one was, I don't know about this second one.
Yeah, the second one was little, but the first Brawley, the legendary.
The first one, the original OG.
Right.
Yes.
That's somebody Vegeta, Kakarot, none of them wanted to see. It was different. It was different, man. But, they got new ones like Jiren. They got just a lot of new characters that I'm like, I need them to bring back the Cell Saga and Hercule and all the characters. And huge wrestling. Hey, look, If you can get Jade Cargill, like
Jade, man.
I think Jade needs to fight Bianca personally. That needs to happen. The AEW, WWE world need to collide, and that needs to happen.
I think that's one thing that WWE is missing. It's like WWE is like the stuck up high school chick. They don't want to work with nobody. They don't want to expand opportunities. But can you imagine if they did something like a Forbidden Door, like AEW does?
Yeah.
Gets what other wrestling companies to throw on a big show. Oh man, that would be awesome.
AEW has the ambition, the aggression. They just need personalities. Like they have Jade on the women's side, but they don't have the male Stone Cold or the male Rock. They don't have that guy to drive it. But the reality is the WWE doesn't have that guy anymore either. And they like to recycle and bring back people that should have retired 20, 30 years ago. But you know, I wish the two would do a WrestleMania together, AEW versus WWE for all the marbles, and that would be an awesome event. But just a quick word from our sponsors.
There's a hero in all of us waiting to be unleashed. All it takes is just that one last push. Activate the hero within with CVMK Global Supplements. All natural, steroid free, designed to enhance performance, build muscle, and increase energy. You are unstoppable. You can do this. Become your own hero at www.cvmkglobal.store.
www.cvmkglobal.store. Get your protein transform, pre-workout, superpower, warrior thirst, meta manla. Get the creatine super thick, get the BCAA saucy. Get it today. www.cvmkglobal.store. All right, I want to get into it. So, you know, we talk about the legalization, or should steroids be legal or illegal in sports. And, you know, no matter how you feel about it, it is definitely present, right? I personally am not a fan, but I'm not an antagonist. I'm not an enemy towards it, right? It has adverse effects. It can cause cancer. It can disrupt and disform the body. But performance enhancing substances, you know, where do we draw the line, right? Or should a line even be drawn? And I think it's important to note this because, you know, the athlete today looks different than the athlete 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Yep.
Right? Like, even when we think of quarterbacks, baseball players, I mean, look how big Aaron Judge is.
That's a big dude.
Yeah, that's a big dude. I mean, 6'5", 250, you know, and obviously some of that is genetics, but some of that is advanced training. I mean, Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, and them, they weren't bench pressing. And I'm not accusing, you know, Aaron Judge. I think he's a clean athlete. But at the same token, if the technology can evolve to the point that we can enhance performance and we can create substances to aid in that the yesteryear athlete did not have, when does it become a steroids, or is steroids only synthetic hormonal? So I want to open up, Will, get your initial thoughts, and then we're going to jump into it.
Well, I think it should be up to the player of what said sport, because the research and everything is now out there of what it can do to your body. Mm-hmm. I know Mike Golick got busted years ago. He took it to help himself recover from injury. He ended up getting busted. You see it sometimes in baseball, every now and again in basketball. It doesn't really come up in basketball too much.
Right.
But I think it should be up to the athlete, because you know what it can do to you. You know how bad it can hurt you down the road when you're done. I'm sort of kind of there with you, because I think most of these guys do it anyway. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you go look at the bodybuilding community, if you look at certain people, you can tell You can tell who you can tell who's on. You can tell who's juicing. You can tell it. You can tell who's on gear. And I just think that it should be up to that athlete to make that decision. It shouldn't be up to the NFL. It shouldn't be up to the International Bodybuilding Federation. It shouldn't be a situation like that, because that's like government getting in the way of your life. You should be able to make a conscious decision on your own, and you knew the risk, you knew what can happen, but at the end of the day, you're in control, and it's your own decision to do or not to do.
Totally agree. I totally agree. I don't see any point of disagreement there. I think the risk. I think if it's well informed, I think if you're willing to pay the price, even if that risk is possibly death, right? You as a free human being have to make that decision. My point is, I feel like we only agree on what types. Right, like, because there's many different types of steroids. So like an athlete gets injured, let's say they have a herniated disc and you need them for a playoff game, and they take a cortisone shot. By definition, that's a steroid, and it's perfectly legal in every sport. Yep. From football, baseball, hockey, basketball, that is perfectly fine. But if you take HRT or something like that, then it's looked down upon. And my thing is, like, are there such thing as good steroids? Are there bad steroids? Like, when do we draw the line? And obviously you don't want to create like a Mortal Kombat situation and have a Goro, obviously, like, I'm sure there's a marketability to that. But I think we've gotten to a point now that the science is too advanced to have a one size fits all rule, right? Like, certain forms of, and I'll pull this article out right here. This is from Forbes. It says, at the same time, legalizing PEDs would make life much easier for professional sports organizations currently tasked with managing and convoluted anti-doping policies. It's a blurry line, which is, or is it, improper performance enhancer. Major League Baseball has strict limits on stimulants like ephedrine, methamphetamine, but no restrictions on caffeine use. Athletes are also barred from HGH, which reputable helps with injury recovery, but they have no use of muscle building creatine. And I think that's the gray line, right? Like, you can't take this, but synthetic amino spiked proteins that have digestive enzymes that go straight to the muscle building qualities without being absorbed and, I would say wasted by the kidneys is perfectly legal. You could take higher forms of supplements like creatine, like aspartic acid, but this right here,
I got you on that. But from what I understand on creatine, you still kind of got to watch out what your caffeine intake is, because if you take creatine, excuse me, and you have a high amount of caffeine in your system, that turns the creatine null and void. So you have to restrict what you drink if you're on that stuff, from what I understand.
Yeah. And caffeine is as addictive as nicotine.
Yep.
Like, I know sometimes and I think it's just marketing. We talk about good drugs versus bad drugs, right? But it's like, think how many people are on caffeine. And I'm not saying caffeine is a drug, but it is, right? Like, you have high school people going to Starbucks before class, college people going to work and with Starbucks, adults. I mean, you could arguably say from the age of 16 to 80, everybody in that group is on caffeine in some way, shape, or form. How is caffeine not monitored? There's no limitation. I mean, they say you should only consume a minimum or a max, up to 400 milligrams. But when you're getting a double shot espresso from, Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, you don't know how many milligrams of caffeine is in that. You're just trying to stay awake.
You don't. Or you drink 2 or 3 Red Bulls right behind each other, which is a different story altogether, but they're still very heavy caffeine laced.
Right. And why is that allowed? Right. But something like this where we know? Is it because of it's easier to make caffeine, because the FDA doesn't really place a restriction on it, because companies can profit? I mean, think about it. I mean, Coca-Cola is, they argue, the originator of the energy drink, right?
Yep.
They can make a profit off of it, and therefore you can't ban that, right? But if you look at, who makes, testosterone, there's only like a handful of companies that can actually, claim that throne. So I want to do this. I'm gonna let's watch this video, Will, and then I want to hear your thoughts on it. So let's watch it.
Okay.
I challenge anybody watching this. Watch the 2001 World Series between the Arizona Diamondbacks and the New York Yankees. Baseball can't get better than that. It's a fun game. There's something happening on every pitch.
Why though?
Because there's action, there's activity, there's a
Hold
guy
on, and what else is there? I mean, it's a much larger point. There's also steroids.
Yeah,
steroids. Exactly. I think there should
Absolutely.
be steroids in baseball.
You
think it should be legal, steroids in baseball? It's not hurting anybody. They're hitting a fucking ball.
Yeah,
I want to see the guys juice to the fucking max, cranking home runs.
Listen,
having a little
did
personality.
anybody get mad at Brad Pitt for being juiced to the hilt and Troy having 19 abs?
Yeah, they're not hurting.
So legalize steroids.
100%.
Let me tell you. What are your thoughts on that? You have an opposing
No,
argument?
I'm just so you're just encouraging
Give
steroids.
us your argument.
That's the argument.
Should Arnold Schwarzenegger
we
get
had-
back
we
all
had-
the box office
We had
that
an
he made?
entire conversation last podcast
Yeah.
about drugs,
Okay.
about pills,
Yeah.
and about cocaine, and I'm like, look, marijuana ain't that bad. Da, 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 da. Now we're like, shoot up, throw some random shit in
There's
your
a difference.
system.
There's a difference.
What big difference?
I give you the big difference. I'll give you the big difference. Okay. So in 2001, Morgan Stanley, 9/11, 2001, I go to Mr. Olympia, okay? I'm in shape. I'm ready. I'm thinking about going into the world to compete, right? It's either going to be I'm going to go be a stockbroker with Morgan Stanley Dean Witter, or I'm going to go be a bodybuilder. I go to Mr. Olympia.
But this is real.
This is
you
real.
competed.
Yeah, in
Oh,
the
sick.
Army. No, never at that.
The U.S.
Yeah, he's a big sick.
I was, but this is in the Army. I was competing.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I go to Mr. Olympia. So I'm like, I'm gonna find out what this life looks like. Okay. So I walk around and I start hanging out with these guys. We start partying. And some of the big names at the time, if you follow bodybuilding, you know these names. I've interviewed most of
Want me
them.
to rip them off for you? Or?
No.
The names off if you want.
What you got?
You would get the names.
Oh, yeah.
You get the names.
Yeah,
Yeah. Cormier was a party guy. Aaron Baker, all these guys, right? So anyway, so I go and I say, so tell me what it takes to be Mr. Olympia. Okay. The guy says, you want to be Mr. Olympia? He says, yeah. I said, I want to know what it takes. I said, I don't want to be a Mr. Olympia competitor. I want to be Mr. Olympia, right? I want to be Arnold. Tell me that.
By the way, Phil Heath used to sit in this seat right here.
Heath is my boy.
Yeah, so
Denver guy.
Denver guy. That's right.
That's where
Basketball.
we used to work out at the same gym.
And he also went to University of Colorado. He was
Correct.
like a
He went to
University of
TU.
Denver.
That's right. That's right.
He's been on Fire the Kid. Great guy.
Yeah, phenomenal guy. So let me go back to this. So I'm looking at this guy. I'm like, listen, I want to kind of be Mr. Olympia, and if I'm going to do this, I'm not doing it to compete. I want to be the Mr. Olympia. He says, okay, let me explain to you what we take. And you make the list, right? This. I won't give the name of who it was, but we went through the whole list of things. You need to take
7
this.
pages long.
Then you're 6'4", 6'5". You're going to be off-season 350. And no one has ever won Mr. Olympia at 6'4", 6'5". The tallest guy that won it was 6'2", 235, 245.
Yeah,
His name is Arnold. During the days where bodybuilding was very different, now
Now they're all 5'9".
Ronnie Coleman won it. He was like 5'9", 5'10",
Ronnie
310, 5'9".
Yeah.
Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah, Ronnie. So, all right, let's pause there. And that's true because Ronnie isn't 6 feet, and Ronnie was like 330. I think he got up to. That's true. And the baseball reference.
I like that baseball reference.
Yeah, the baseball reference is true. Baseball on steroids was a better game. And even when it was longer, it was a better game.
It was. And it drew so much, and it drew so many more fans than it normally would with the long ball going out like that. And to this day, Barry Bonds ain't verified nothing. To this day, Barry Bonds has not verified anything.
Right.
I mean, Barry Bonds, you on steroids? Hit another home run. And that's it. That's it with Barry. He will not. I mean, I think Barry was because of the way his body transformed.
Right.
You can't tell me that you go. Look at him in Pittsburgh when he was with the Pirates early.
Look at him
It's
now.
one thing that makes me mad. I get it if you're doing it because you're trying to compete. I understand that. But the other side of it is Barry didn't need it.
No.
Because if you look at him at Pittsburgh, you could tell he was already going to be an all-time great. You can already tell. And he didn't need it. And that's the thing that makes me mad about Barry. Because he should be Hall of Famer.
Right.
But because he's got that connection and that stigma and the old ways of the baseball writers not looking at steroids the way we're looking at it. I think him and Clemens eventually get in. Hall of Fame committee will eventually get them in. But because the way steroids is looked at, and you have an older baseball writers association, they'll never get in. But that's the one thing. Now I think Mark needed it, but I don't think Barry needed it, and that's the one thing that does make me a little bit upset.
I agree. I think Barry did not need it. It only enhanced Barry, and I think that's what it is. It enhances who you are, right? Like Mark McGwire was not a Hall of Fame player before it, right? It made him the Hall of Fame player, but you still have to have enough to be enhanced. Like
True.
You can't give it to an ant and an ant turns into Michael Jordan, right? Like you have to have a foundation. You have to have the blueprint already in reach, and then it helps you get to whatever was out of reach. Yes, yes, I don't think, and I think shout out to PBD podcast. As the guy stated, even though we're not for it, like it can do all these debilitating things to you long term. The problem is, as Americans, and just I think as human beings, we turn a blind eye to it, right? Like when it's not convenient. So, we'll say, oh, this is wrong. Athletes shouldn't do this. But if somebody is struggling with a certain substance abuse, we're okay with it. If an actor gets ready for a role and they put on 20 to 30 pounds of muscle, we say things like, oh, he just worked hard. But it's like, this dude was super scrawny,
Yep.
And all of a sudden it looks like this. And he brings up, he's like, bro, without Terminator, I mean, like Arnold had to be for these roles. Arnold was just regular Arnold, you wouldn't want to see Arnie,
Exactly.
So because of it, it allowed for the image that you were trying to create, and it sells. And, like we need to be frank, because, and I can't say who's on whatever, but particularly in the movie industry and in the entertainment, when these actors go through these metamorphoses, yes, they're working hard. Yes, their diet changes. Yes, they have trainers, but there's also the substances they don't talk about. Like I watched Henry Cavill talk about, and he was meant to be on steroids or anything, but he talked about, he's like, yes, I use, creatine. Yes, I use protein. The Superman image, right? And it's like, so it's performance enhancing as a whole, I think is the proper subject. And which or how much of it do we think is tolerable versus it at all? What are your thoughts?
And I remember you brought up Henry Cavill. Hugh Jackman also brought up the fact that he was approached with it and he said no. And shout out to him for that. Playing Wolverine, which he's making a comeback in Deadpool 3, which is cool. But like I say, it's just the fact that you can't just, if you're gonna take it, I guess we try to justify it by whatever reason that person did it.
Yeah.
But you just can't do it for one person and not hold the other person accountable.
Right.
You have to look at, okay, he did steroid for what reason, but he still did it. Be it for a movie, be it for pro wrestling, be it for whatever. You have to hold these same people accountable to the same level and of responsibility when it comes to this stuff. And I get it. You want to look, you got to be big and buff on these roles and stuff like that. But I want to say something from that Chris Jericho said a couple of years ago. You don't need it, because what happens when you go to the gym, you work out hard, you eat right, you can get a good body that can pretty much,
without it.
It can pretty much help you in the test of time to get these movie roles and things of that nature.
Right.
Heck, I remember Triple H. When Triple H first, debuted, he was huge, jacked up, looked good.
Yeah.
But then once he got off the roids, what happened? You could tell there's a remarkable difference once you're off this stuff.
Yeah.
So,
I
that's
remember.
why I say it's up to the athlete, because you know the risk, as I said before.
Yeah.
You know the risk. If you take it or not, that's your business. Me personally, no. I got enough health problems with having to deal with the back end of that, but no. Me personally, no. But I get it, and like these guys are talking in particular situations, is that you have to make a decision for yourself, and when it's found out, it's gonna be some type of a backlash, depending on what you're doing.
No, I agree with you. I think, like I said, for me personally, I got enough health issues. Like as a type 1 diabetic, I mean, something like that could kill me. So I would never do that. I would never put a synthetic hormone into my body unless prescribed by a doctor, right?
Exactly.
So like my insulin is prescribed by a doctor. I'm not taking insulin like bodybuilders try to do it, right, to be big, but that's because I have to, right? That's how I live.
Mm-hmm.
So, to go to that length, because there are levels, and like he brought it up, the guy, he didn't say protein, he didn't say creatine, he started talking about drugs, right? He started talking about the different types of substances, and he listed out like 7 of them, right, that you need a prescription for. You're buying it off the black market that they're taking. And that's, I think, the dangers as these guys get on, is that this stuff isn't monitored, right? Now, how much, and I agree with Chris Jericho, you can get really nice without it. You can get a good body, a great body. I mean, like Hugh Jackman, has a nice physique. There's nothing that will make you think, anabolic, because he's not like overly defined. He's not 250, so there's nothing that'll make you think, hey, test him now. But you can get really nice with the proper training, the proper nutrition, with protein, right? With creatine, if you would like, and creatine's not bad at all. I mean, because you get it in fish and you get it in steak, and just using that as a formula versus messing with hormone, manipulation, right? Like that's where I think I draw the line. But at the same time, should it be legal or illegal? I don't think it should be illegal, but I do think you should definitely know the risk. I want to go to this, because Mike has a very interesting opinion, and I want to break down Mike Tyson's opinion.
Okay.
A chemical that's gonna camouflage it.
Yeah, so talk about that. So, Mike, you're right. I mean, there are these chemists out there, and alcohol
incredible, man. In the backyard somewhere. And listen, I don't even blame the athlete. I can't blame them. You know what this is going to give? It's going to give you your dream. This is going to give you your dream. I'll put you so close to your dreams, you're going to get them. You're going to touch them. It's just, it's hard to even say no, because this is the truth. If an athlete, very few athletes that could say, I just want to see if I'm better than him. It's clean. I just want to see if I'm better than man for man. Can I beat him? We want to believe that, but I can make sure I'm better if I take this, though. I guarantee me to be better. It's tough for us, because some of us don't like to touch who we really are. We're really winners or losers. Sometimes we doubt who we are, even though we are that great energy. We doubt it sometimes. So it could be like it's easier to say this. Take this. This would be easier. Yeah, it makes me better.
Yeah,
I like that.
I do too.
I think, and I'll turn it to you. I think Mike hit upon a couple things. If the temptation isn't just to get big, I don't think anybody gets on steroids to get big. you know, like I want muscle. I think what it is if you could get to your dream, right? Like let's say, because I think if you win Mr. Olympia, is it $1 million? I think it's like $1 million even. You know, you can get the house you want, you can get the lifestyle that you want, you can get the cars that you want, and you're only 1 or 2 substances away. Would you consider it, right? Versus the reality that, and as he mentioned, am I better than this individual? You know, like everybody wants to pad the stats, you know, and everybody, and you can't blame them because it's like, man, if you both train hard, let's take like an athlete, like, you know, I only have a 40-inch vertical, but I could have a 50-inch vertical, right? And it's one pill away. The temptation in that dramatically increases because you associate your goal with everything you worked hard for, and it's hard to deal with the fact that for me not to get my goal means I lose and I never get there. What are your thoughts on that?
He's right, because it does camouflage, so to speak, a little bit. It gets you to that point to where you might be able to get to that point where you're a knockout artist in boxing. It gives you a false sense of security, so to speak. But I just think you still, even if you're on there, and if you get to that point where you feel you can be your best, you still need to have the skills of that particular sport to be successful. There's a lot of boxers out there that look good, but they don't have the skills to go in there and take it to the next level. So he's right. Mike is right. It does camouflage your weaknesses as an athlete. And that's the one thing with me, being who I am, trying to be the best at what I do.
Right.
I mean, you're talking to someone who type 2 diabetic, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, none of that stuff. I try to get there on my own merit. I couldn't, if there was something I could take to make me a better podcaster, to get me up to the Fox ESPN level, right? You know, you have to look at it, but at the end of the day, right, it's on you. It's on you and how much pride you have for yourself. Right. So, you know, Mike is right. You got to have the skills first, because if you start getting on this gear, and there's a whole bunch of gear out there, and there's easy ways to get it. You start taking it, but you don't have the skills to be successful in that sport. Then why? Then why? And that's what I've always wanted to ask some of these guys who got busted. Look, not gonna sit here and put down Mike Golick, because he was a good football player, particularly back in his day. But let's say he took it for another reason besides just to recover, to be better. Okay, that taking steroids doesn't get him to the Hall of Fame level. It just doesn't. So Mike is right on that case. He is correct. It gives you a false sense of security and kind of like a crutch to cover your weaknesses in said sport.
I like it. False sense of security. We're going to deal with the false sense of security. Just a quick word from our sponsors. Hey, what's up? It's CVMK33. Look, I want you to subscribe, hit the notification bell, subscribe here, everywhere, so you can get the latest and greatest of this podcast content. Stay tuned. All right, y'all, subscribe. YouTube, CVMK. Instagram, it is what it is, _show, CVMK_global. TikTok, CVMK Globe. YouTube, hit the smash button, like, share, comment, CVMK. I think you're absolutely right. You know, like I don't drink, I don't smoke. Like those things are not me, obviously for health reasons, spiritual reasons too. But, you know, it's kind of 50-50 right now. And a lot of it is a personal choice. But as you said, if there's a substance and all of a sudden we would become Joe Rogan overnight, and we would have 3+ million YouTube subscribers, we'd be making 8 figures, 9 figures, annually. We'd have ad sponsorships. like crazy. And then this has become our full-time career, and we can just talk, sports all day, and not have to pay for it. You do have to consider. You do. I'm not saying do it.
You gotta at least look at it.
You gotta look at it.
At the very least, you look at it, and then you have to make that person's decision. Do I want to go down this road?
Right. And I think that's the danger is, where does it stop? Right. Like, because you look at it, and then the problem with the false sense of security is success is blinding and it's misleading.
Yep.
And failure isn't the whole truth. And that's the two realities. And let's say you start getting successful, and I was like, oh, I'm number 1 or I'm number 2 behind Joe Rogan. Now this is the next thing. Now this is the next thing. Now this is the next thing. And now you got yourself in a cat's bag, getting messed up and going unconscious because you literally have OD'd. And I think that's the danger. But here's where I want to ask you. Do we do fair by our athletes, or do we do fair by society as a whole? Do we place too much pressure on people to succeed that they're willing to make unethical compromises, or it might even be an issue of ethic? They're willing to make compromises for the sake of success. Do you think it's just societal pressure, or is it just us as fans because we want to see these athletes perform at the highest levels?
I think it's us as fans. Because you have part of society that don't watch certain sports, hence the WNBA, but I won't go there. I think that we look at these guys and we expect them to perform to the highest level, and when they don't, we criticize, and some people criticize worse than others. Let's say, for example, you look at a LeBron James. Okay, LeBron James, who 6'9", 260, 265, 270.
Yeah. If
he goes out and has a bad day, or Giannis goes out and has a bad game, these are superstars. These are the guys that we expect to perform, and they have that pressure on them 24/7 to perform, because fans expect to see you out there, regardless of the situation, whether you hurt or not. They expect to see you out there giving it your all. And I think that's why some of these guys might do it, because when you look at the pressure of the fans, and also too, I'm not gonna sit here in front, look at the pressure the media gives them too, and the media highlights that. When you look at a Stephen A. Smith, when you look at somebody, Shannon Sharp, for example, they look at these athletes and, hey, you're supposed to perform, you're supposed to come out big, and they get criticized when they come up small. So these athletes are under constant amount of pressure to be at their very best. And I think that's where it comes from, where the temptation comes from, to be on that. Because I'm not saying Giannis is. I don't know. But that's a big dude. That's a big guy. And he's ripped. Look at LeBron. I don't think LeBron's on it, because there's nothing abnormal about LeBron, but he's still a big dude. So you're looking at the pressure of the fans, and somewhat society too, because society doesn't want to be associated with being a loser or losing. Always want to be on the winning side of things. So I just think, because these athletes are such a huge pressure to perform game in, game out, and knowing what the situation is, there's a guy behind you. You might not be doing it, but there's a guy behind you who is, and he's gunning for your position. He's gunning for basically your job.
Right.
So, and that's pressure. And I think that's why a lot of guys succumb to doing it, because, hey, they hear the footsteps. And a lot of these superstars, that we look to aren't young.
No.
And when you're looking at running backs now, running backs is a position that is no longer valued the way it was. You have a lot of running backs out there, 2 running back systems. Look at the Falcons, 2 running backs, sometimes 3 running backs. And any of these guys could come in. And if they have a good game, oh, there you go. You didn't do enough to hold your job. But the guy behind you comes in who's doing it, has a great game. They decide to go with him. There you go. That's your job gone.
Ezekiel Elliott.
And these guys, and I'm not talking about a college kid. These guys got mortgages. These guys got family.
Yeah.
It's a grown sport. And I just think that's why some of these guys might succumb to doing it, because of that pressure of the fans and society too, to a lesser degree, because they always got that guy behind them, and the fans expect them to be at their best 24 hours a day.
I believe it. Look, I got one more question. We're going to go to our sponsor, but then we're going to call it substance, yay or nay. I'm going to provide a substance. You're going to be the commissioner over this league, and we're going to go by what should be allowed, what shouldn't be allowed. Just a quick word from our sponsor.
I literally just tried the best pre-workout on the planet. With Superpower pre-workout, you have increased focus and a power boost every single time you work out. It's not only packed with 225 milligrams of caffeine, but it also has citrulline and creatine. It's insane how much energy and focus I had during my workouts. If you're ready to take your workouts to the next level, then ditch your current pre-workout and get the Superpower pre-workout to be your own hero.
All right, y'all, www.cvmkglobal.store, where you can get your natural substances that will not fail WADA, the anti-doping policies of any sport, non-steroid free, but will help you get to the goals that you need. Protein Transform. Get it today. You'll like it, and you'll really like Warrior Thirst. So let's play a game called Substance Procedure, yay or nay. All right, you're the commissioner of a sport, and we'll go by, that. Cortisone injections for pain, yay or nay?
Yeah.
Marijuana for pain.
Oh, that's weed. Yeah.
Surgery, stem cells, rejuvenation for injury repair.
Kobe did that when he got hurt.
He did do it.
That's tough.
And it was allowed.
Yeah, it was allowed. Yeah. Yeah. I would say yeah.
Okay. That's okay. Protein.
Yeah.
Creatine.
Yeah.
Multivitamins from Walmart.
Okay. There's actually studies out there that people that say vitamins aren't what a lot of people think they are. But
no, it's kind of gimmicky. Yeah, I mean, I won't say it's gimmicky, but there's a lot of research out there that go either way.
Yep.
High caffeine stimulants. Under a certain milligram usage.
Under a certain milligram usage, because I would be concerned with the blood pressure at that point.
Are you testing before games or just randomly?
Randomly.
Okay. HGH.
No.
Testosterone.
No.
All right. I agree with you. I agree with the list on that. I totally agree with the list on that. That's hard. I agree with the list. Now, what's interesting is that's going to be another topic for another day, because this is going to, I'm telling you, it is expanding, but I agree with the list on this. It has been a pleasure. Will, where can they connect with you, man? Where can they check out the podcast?
If you check me out right down there, Gauntlet Geek 1, that's my Twitter. And you can listen to all our shows, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Sports Report Podcast every Monday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Sports Report Fight Night every Tuesday. As a matter of fact, tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern, we're going to talk about pro wrestling, but what's going on at AEW as well as WWE. And then Saturday night, the Geek Gauntlet Podcast, 10 p.m. Eastern. You can find me over there. We're going to talk about anime, comic books, video games, particularly Street Fighter 6. I'm going to get into my little Street Fighter 6 rant.
All right, y'all. Connect with William. Gauntlet Geek 1, Sports Report Podcast. It goes down. Get on Twitch, get on Facebook, get on Twitter, get on the gram, follow and connect. And you know what you want to do. You keep seeing amazing content like this. Your boy, YouTube, CVMK33, Instagram, it is what it is _show. And where the best supplements are, www.cvmkglobal.com.
I'm going to check them out myself.
Do it, my man. Do it. And until next time, guys.